Hey everyone, it's Fitz with the Daily Delivery. Hope you're doing well. Well, today I'm going to talk about Texas football, not University of Texas football as in the Longhorns. I'm not going to do a whole daily delivery on Texas, piling on Texas because they're 4-5 and they're down in the Big 12 standings, and they made a mistake firing a coach and hired a coach that doesn't seem to be working out already. They probably should fire him. I'm not going to spend I got 2.5 minutes left here, talking about the University of Texas. That's not at all what I'm here for. When I say I'm going to talk about Texas football, I mean all of football in Texas, in the FBS at least. I'm not going to talk about FCS or high school. I don't know anything about that. I know FBS programs. There are 12 in the state of Texas. That's a lot of FBS football programs. And TexasFootball.com, a great website, just did a set of rankings pointing out where everyone is in that pecking order. So I'm not going to talk about the Texas Longhorns that much, but I do want to point out these rankings. Number one is UTSA, and that's very deserved. The Roadrunners have turned into probably the dominant power in the state of Texas. They're in San Antonio. It says University of Texas at San Antonio. If the Longhorns did it right, they'd be UTA. Or was that Arlington? But UTA Austin, because San Antonio is like a sub school. They're supposed to be lesser than Texas, the University of Texas, but they're above them. See, anyhow, Texas A&M. I don't know. They used to be rivals of Texas, and then they left, and now they're better apparently, according to these rankings. I'm not making anything up here. These are just the rankings. Houston Cougars are third. Houston's going to be one of those new teams, new schools that comes into the Big 12. They're apparently pretty good. They're 7-1, which means it's better than Texas. Number 4 is Baylor. They're in the Big 12, and they just lost this weekend. So they're kind of down in Waco, but they're better than Texas. SMU is 5th. TCU is 6th. TCU fired their coach. Better than Texas. UTEP is 7. Friend of mine, Dana Dillon's the coach there. They're better than Texas. 8 is Texas Tech. They also fired their coach. Better than Texas. Hey, at 9 is North Texas. They're probably going to fire their coach because that Luttrell guy isn't working out like they thought he would. But they're better than Texas. And by the way, 11 is Texas State, and 12 is Rice. But at least Rice is, I don't know. Texas is 10 out of 12. That's not good.